Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Miller, coming to you with the first episode from Season 2 of Trekka TV. Joining me today are Daniel Daly, a social studies teacher, and Christina McLaughlin, who is our school improvement coordinator. So first off, thank you both for joining me. I know that this is maybe not what people enjoy doing on their Fridays. So
Cool.
thank you for coming in and helping out. Maybe what we'll start with is just what do we do here at Trekka? Hopefully people know me, though. Well, actually, hopefully people don't know me. Hopefully this is the first time they've ever seen me in their math class. But if you are still here, if you're still working on Algebra 1, if you're working through things, welcome back. I'm also glad to have you. Mr. Daly, you have changed some classes. You were teaching world history last year, and what else did you have?
Last year, I taught world history and civics. This year, I'm just focusing on U.S. government and financial literacy, along with two new electives that are really exciting. And if you are a 9th through 12th grader and are interested in learning more about the Civil War, we offer a new Civil War elective, which is really cool and exciting. Generally, Civil War, you learn about that in 8th grade, and then you kind of leave it behind for the rest of high school. But it's a really interesting topic, and Ohio played such a big role. So consider, if you're interested in learning more about the Civil War, take that elective course. And as of last Friday, we launched a Vietnam War elective. So another social studies elective course that I'm teaching this year, along with those U.S. government and financial literacy courses. So lots of cool stuff in social studies going on. And if I have you in class, make sure you're checking in and letting me know how I can help you. Or if I don't have you yet, and you just want to chat about social studies or something you see in the news or history, I'd love to do that too. So thanks for having me, Mr. Miller.
Yeah, thanks for being here. School improvement coordinator,
Yes.
that feels really fancy. Uh, can you break down a little bit why you're more important than Mr. Daly and I?
Well, I don't think I am more important, but so essentially what the school improvement coordinator is focused on is federal programming. So that's anything to do with teacher professional development, Title I support services of students. And then also within that role, we have rolled in curriculum coordinator and also another thing that some students may end up seeing a little bit about is family engagement. Family engagement also falls within the school improvement department. So that's when we have our family engagement events all over the state. That's actually coming out of our federal program area.
Fair enough. And the family engagement events you said happen all over the state. Those are like the back to school nights that happen, right?
Back to school nights, yeah, like our ice cream socials, that's part of it. Also, I believe the one that is up right now in Brightspace is the one about the Union Ridge Wildlife Center.
Oh,
So
right.
things like that.
Yeah.
Yes. So those kind of events like Wright-Patterson Air Force Base or the Great Lakes Science Center, things like that, those are considered family engagement events where we're inviting our families to come out and join us for educational opportunities.
And by the way, that one looks super interesting to me. If
Yeah.
if you really enjoyed the show with the park ranger, or even kind of enjoyed it, I guess, or if you enjoyed the
Yeah.
episode with the curator from the Columbus Zoo, that might be a really awesome
Mhm.
trip to sign up for.
Yes.
There are a limited number of spots, though, right? We can only take so many.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you want to go, get signed up. Make sure that happens.
Mr. Miller, could you remind us where we can go to find out more information about that?
Oh no, you know I can't do that. You know it. Look in your news, your Brightspace home news, and that should give you more information. God, putting me.
Definitely.
You can't put me on the spot. That's my job. That's what I get to do to you. Come on. So what I wanted to start with was just kind of going through some of the changes that have been happening this year, because some of our students may have noticed last year, this summer, that we were a little more like everything is shutting down, and then
Yeah.
we'll be back. Right? There was a window that there was no accessibility, which I think is a little different for us versus. I mean, it was a much longer window this year.
Right. Yeah. No, we do normally shut down Brightspace for a couple weeks in the summer just to give our teachers time to kind of clean up some of the classrooms and get some things in a different order. But this year, we definitely made a few programming changes. for those students in grade 7 through 12 who have used Play-Doh, and Play-Doh is just a textbook that we use within our classes, Play-Doh changed all of their links. So every single course had to be redesigned. At least every single course that used Play-Doh within Brightspace had to be redesigned because of a programming change with Play-Doh. So every single resource link that we used broke. And it was easier to actually create brand new classes than to try to reformat an existing class. It really was. So it was a monumental undertaking to do that. It just was something we didn't have a choice with. And my elementary students last year would have used a program called Compass.
Right.
And we actually made a major change. Our K through 3 students are now using a program called Education City. That is their primary textbook. And grades 4 through 6 are using resources from the Houghton Mifflin Company, HMH. So they're actually using online textbooks. And then teachers across K through 12 are using quite a few different resources as supplements. So Odysseyware was one thing that Mr. Miller mentioned. And Odysseyware is something we are using with a lot of different high school students. We're also using LearnZillion now with quite a few different classes between grades 3 through 9 and somewhere up even into high school courses. They're using LearnZillion. So it's not just one thing anymore. It's multiple things. And it kind of depends on your grade level, and it kind of depends on the content area, how many different types of things you're going to see. But it's just like going, to any kind of school, any kind of classroom. What you see in Brightspace, that's your classroom. Your teacher in a brick and mortar wouldn't use just one single thing all year long. They're going to throw in a whole bunch of different things that make sense for you and for that topic. So we just end up doing the same thing online. Sometimes you just have to remember, oh yeah, if I'm going to this site, it's going to look a little different just because it's a different resource. But our teachers really did a lot of work trying to make sure they all worked.
That is not wrong.
No.
And and a lot of it is work that doesn't get seen. It's work that the students are going to say, okay, well, this is a little prettier than last year. Fine, they've got like the updated graphic on the
right.
But literally all of that stuff had to be pulled out, and all the wires need to be jammed back in.
Definitely.
For students who I use some Play-Doh in some of my courses, I know other teachers do as well. For the math content, it's really hard to find good things where you can type into, like, and actually put the equations back into the system, and so Play-Doh is kind of an inevitability for them. But one thing that has changed is that we used to be able to do things like log into the back end of Play-Doh and manually unlock tests and those sorts of things. And that functionality is gone from what
Yes.
So,
it is completely gone, and that is definitely a new thing. Students can no longer contact their advisor or their teacher and say, hey, can you go unlock this for me? It does not work that way. It is really like it's a brand new Play-Doh, and a student is now much more in charge of that. They need to work through that tutorial a second or third time, which I know takes time, but it's what's going to help you pass the mastery test if that is what your teacher is requiring of you. So
I have never been one who has been shy about unlocking a test for a student if they're like, I got through 17 problems, went and made a peanut butter sandwich, came back, and my test was locked because I love peanut. I'm on board for that. I love peanut butter. I'm good. But that's just not something we can do anymore. So if I look at you and I say, I honestly can't do that, I will only say that if I can't do that. I will tell you when I won't do things. I'm happy to, I'll level with you. So that has changed. Odysseyware is new. I know that's been working really well for some, and it's been a little scary to log into for others because it doesn't take any capital letters on anything when we log in. And so some students who are used to typing in capital letters, like I've gotten so many frantic emails about Odysseyware, and 99% of them is just type in lowercase and you're good.
Yeah, I know that. And it's a mind shift for me also as an English teacher. I mean, I taught English for years. So believe me, when I don't have to use a capital letter, it's like anxiety. I'm like, no, this has to be capitalized. It is a proper name. It's okay. Nope, we just don't capitalize.
You know,
But I've been working with a group of students in Odysseyware, and it is definitely different. But so far, I am really enjoying what I see I can do in Odysseyware to help students that I could not do when they were in Play-Doh. So at least
yeah.
for me, I'm feeling really positive about the possibilities that are there with Odysseyware.
And for students who are just getting into Odysseyware for the first time in their applied class or in their math class, and like Algebra 2 is a class that uses a lot of Odysseyware, something really important to keep in mind is, you're logging into Odysseyware, but when you do have a question or a concern, you need to reach out to your teacher to schedule a Jigsaw session. It's usually way more practical to go back to Brightspace and email your teacher like you would have done last year, or
Right.
for other classes that don't use Odysseyware. There's a messaging platform within
I
Odysseyware.
was going to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, most teachers live in Brightspace and are looking at that screen all day. So we get that notification immediately in Brightspace, whereas if you message in Odysseyware, there might be more of a delay before we see that or access that. Brightspace is also really essential to log into, since that's where you get your attendance credit. So that should be your first stop anyway.
Yes, exactly.
So that's what I would really recommend. I have a few courses using Odysseyware, also seeing some good things there, especially compared to Play-Doh or other platforms that would be used for a similar purpose. But just remember, Brightspace is there for you to message, and some classes might use a hybrid combination of Odysseyware and Brightspace materials. As I knock over something with my hand motion.
It wasn't your cat, right? Just as long as that wasn't the cat, I'll be okay.
It's a rainy day, so the cats are napping.
Okay.
Ah.
Odysseyware has been, so in algebra we just use it for the block 12 review. And so what's fine is students are like, oh, I'm starting to get this, and like I've got Maple, and that's one thing, and Maple's got its own basket of things, and here's Play-Doh, and it's got its own things, and sometimes Play-Doh works really well for a student, sometimes Brightspace or Maple works really well for a student, sometimes they both work well. Some students they manage to run into every single issue that has ever occurred. Some of you have horrendous luck. I don't know. Some people are bad with computers, and some people are just genuinely unlucky. So, so that's happened too. But where I'm using in Block 12, that's a little different. Block 12 in math this year, where in previous years a lot of times it was left open. Now it's being used for review. But that's not the case across the board, right? Like math is the only one that's doing review on Block 12. What are the other departments doing, and why are we doing that?
I can tell you about social studies, and I'm not too knowledgeable about the other content areas, so I'll let
I'm sorry if I put you
our
on the spot
improvement coordinator to handle that one. But for social studies, we kind of for a class like world history, U.S. government, American history, for those courses in Block 12, we're not really covering necessarily content that is, about U.S. government or about American history or world history. The big theme in Block 12 this year for social studies is media literacy, which is a really important topic, because to learn about what's going on in our lives, in the news, or in our world, or in our country, you have to be tuned into the news, whether that's on the internet, on social media, on the TV, wherever. There's so many different news sources, so much confusion about what's reliable, what's true, what's fake. So Block 12 this year in our social studies courses is really providing students with an opportunity to look at how can we evaluate sources, evaluate news, and be informed citizens, making the best choices with how we're informed, and looking at the different platforms available to us. So that's our focus in social studies, which I think is a really great thing for students to learn.
Right, yeah.
I teach government, and one of the content standards is about mass media and how that transmits news about our government. So that does build in really well with my course there. But in the other courses too, if you're a ninth grader taking world history, that's something you need to learn. You want to know that. So when you hear stuff about, an election or a politician or, an event, you can more easily form an opinion and evaluate sources of news to determine, where you go to find out what's true and what's not.
Right.
So that's been a big change this year for Block 12 and social studies. However, in science and English, there's different focuses.
Yes. In fact, in science for 7 through 12, they are looking at career exploration in STEM, which is science, technology,
engineering,
thank you, and mathematics. So obviously, I did not write anything for STEM. So that is what science students are focused on. And then in language arts, it is about internet safety and being a digital citizen. So it kind of complements what's happening in social studies, but it's also just about making good decisions when you are online and being a safe and productive digital citizen in, whatever online world you're kind of hanging out in. But then at grades 4 through 6, where they're doing things a little bit differently, but still kind of along the same way. So in 4 through 6 language arts, they're looking at anti-bullying and learning. Again, it's about being a good digital citizen, but how to be a kind digital citizen. And this whole thing with cyberbullying, it's really huge. So we decided to introduce that at grades 4 through 6. And then grades 4 through 6, science is focused on coding. So we're actually introducing students to the possibility of writing their own code, which is pretty fun.
I love that. I started programming computers when I was in elementary school, and now I'm teaching math. That was a smooth transition. But there is a lot of math and coding, but there's a lot of, it's, in a lot of ways, it's also sort of like learning French or learning Spanish. It's about being able to translate your thoughts from how you speak into how somebody else will understand.
Exactly.
So I'm excited. I didn't actually know that, so that's I've been
coding is fun.
I've been talking to one of our other administrators about possibly doing a coding class. So that's exciting.
That would be awesome. No, I would love to see coding everywhere. I learned to do it when I was in middle school, and that was back in the day when, I hate to admit, not everyone had a computer. So it was before computers were in the home.
That was like when the iPhone 4 was out, right? That was
like please. Nobody had a cell phone then either. We had phones on the wall of our houses.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that was the same thing while I was in high school. We had when I was in like a sophomore or a junior in high school, we got a bag phone for the car.
And oh my gosh, yes, I had one of those.
So, because no one listening to this, unless your parents are watching, and if you are, thanks for joining us. But for the kids or the students who are watching, a bag phone is like, it looks like a shoebox with this like weird, like fake leather pleather outside to it. And then you unzip it, right? And inside of it is like one of those office phones. It is corded, it is huge, and it's always black plastic. And then it has like this output that goes to like the where the old cigarette lighters went, whatever the power thing is. And then another one that was a huge antenna that you would like put out your window and stick to the top of your car. It was it's like halfway in between living in a 50s spy movie and like I mean,
it probably wasn't that cheap either.
No.
Those are pricey.
No, that was like we were like fancy. We were fancy. My stepfather got it because I think it was because of his work, right? So we couldn't get one. We're not that fancy, but we could take use of it. So,
I got one because I was driving to Kent State, 5 days a week, and I had a toddler, and it was like a safety thing. I know, I tell you, do everything for the kids.
By the way, when you lean super far to your right, you go off camera. So sometimes we get like your
really this way.
Yeah, you're gone.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have 3 people side by side, so we're all scrunched in. You just get our heads.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I just didn't want to like.
Hey, Mr. Miller.
Bad. What's up?
Before we move on to our next topic, just real quick, I want to take your job again and just emphasize that these are all these changes and stuff we're talking about so far, and we're going to continue to talk about. We would love to see student feedback on, hey, I did enjoy learning about coding in 9th grade this year, or this was really cool, or hey, like this was really hard. I didn't really know what its purpose was. Like we value that feedback. The process for all these changes we're going over, we have a number of other things to talk about. Go back to like February, March of last year is when we started thinking about this stuff and started to implement it. So it's a long process. So we're here in September 8th, 2017 to date this. If you're seeing this and you're going through your new classes, you're a new student to TDA, we want to know what's working, what's not working, what's cool, what's frustrating, so we can make that change again for the next school year. We're always looking to improve. Your feedback or your parents' feedback is a big part of that.
I built a whole lot of content in Maple. Like we've been talking about coding classes. I have been coding computers. I have not been a math teacher like all summer. That's not what I was doing. I was programming math questions, and I was doing this even back last year. And last year I had a small group of students, maybe 15 or 20, which is not a small group, but it's a small enough where it's definitely not everybody, going through and practicing and kind of beta testing some of these questions. And I will find that, I've got questions that worked every single time and looked great. And then you have 200 students doing them instead of 20, and you got 7 errors because, because we get so many more numbers generated, the larger our sample size goes. So specifically, if you were looking at this in math, if you get a question and you're like, that seems like that's not a real thing. I had a student email me today. I've had 2, I think, bugs found this week as people are moving into new content. And for students who find bugs, the first thing I do is I fix your grade, because you shouldn't lose points because But the other thing is you'll earn bonus points, and then even if you decide you want to go back and let's say you got a 60% on a quiz, you tried it at the beginning and you didn't really know it, but you found a bug while you were doing it. Even if you redo it to get a 95%, the practice quiz, you still get your bonus point. That's not going to go away. So, every time that you test something with a small group and then go to a large group, you're going to miss something. And so I just want you to know that it's that if I guess we're just going to pretend like we're kind of that creepy bus transit that's, with the signs with, if you see something, say something. No? You've never seen those?
Okay, I guess I gotcha. Yeah. What you're trying to say is we're not perfect. We make mistakes. We want to fix those mistakes, and we will reward you for telling us about these mistakes.
For my math class, no one else. I don't know if anyone else will reward you. And for the record, I am perfect. My code sometimes is not. So that's just that's the balance.
I've heard. Yeah,
it's fine.
Okay.
Students haven't been complaining about my code. It's fine. It's fine.
For social studies, for my classes, they get a little, the little award badges that pop up in Brightspace.
I haven't made those yet.
Award. So you get one of those when you tell me, like today a student had informed me that, there was a quiz I was grading incorrectly. So he got a little award for that, fixed it. So just we want to know, using technology is never perfect. Sometimes it's just a system doesn't work perfectly, and that's fine. We want to correct it. So always give us that feedback and let us know when you think something's wrong or not fair or incorrect. It's totally possible something's going on, and we can usually fix it. So just let us know.
And also know that we're not trying to mess up your grades or your points, right? Like if you come at us and you say, "Hey, this wasn't working right," and it's not working right, we're like, "Oh, nice catch," right? Like we're never gonna be like, "Oh, you miss all the points because that's what it's."
Right now.
We're I promise you, we're on your side. If we make mistakes, we want to fix the mistakes. That's we would rather be right in the end than right at the beginning. So you find something broken, let's fix it.
Exactly.
So I guess we talked a little bit about what's different in Plato. We talked about what is Odyssey Ware, and we've hit block 12. Mr. Daly, you are not using Plato or Odyssey Ware for some of your content, right? You're building your own or doing other things.
Right, yeah.
Why would you make that choice? Why would you say, here are 2 pretty good textbooks, and I'm going to ignore those for another thing? Because I've made that choice too.
Right. So for the last few years, we've been using Brightspace. I think this is will be our third full year using Brightspace. Yes. I've been moving away from Plato. For some of in let's say the 2015-16 school year, our first year using Brightspace, some of the Plato content was a little more outdated.
Yes.
Let's say it was from over 5 years ago. It would be very generous. Back then. So I really didn't want to present that to our students and have them navigating through these more archaic or confusing types of tutorials. So adding in different content from places, that I pull myself, maybe it's an open educational resource, maybe it's another type of text, maybe it's videos. It just gives me more control as a teacher for a class like U.S. government where I'm not reliant on Plato to lay it out for you, because in Ohio, for example, if you're taking government, you're also taking the Ohio State Test for Government, which for many students determines their graduation eligibility.
Right.
So Plato doesn't account for that. There's a lot of different things in the Ohio standards that Plato can't catch or can't cover. So I do have some elements of Plato in my class, but there's a ton of stuff that's needed to supplement that so you can learn everything you need and learn in a way where I think it's going to be more friendly, and it gives me the ability to give you feedback. Earlier, we talked about some of the things that Play-Doh can't do any longer. Like
Right.
on our end, we can't log in directly to it or do those unlocks. Making everything in Brightspace gives me so much more data and information, and you more of the ability to see maybe what you missed or what you're struggling with. We can work together on that. Whereas Play-Doh might have just given you a percentage score. So when Mr. Miller uses Maple to create assessments, or I'm using the Brightspace quizzes, I think that's a change you're going to continue to see from a lot of your teachers through the next school year and school years. Adding in stuff, because Brightspace does give us that capability. So Play-Doh is fine, it's very good, and nothing against Play-Doh, but I do think for many of our classes, it allows us to extend beyond what Play-Doh can offer us and make it more like an actual classroom.
Right.
That's Mr. Daly's classroom, Mr. Miller's classroom, not Play-Doh's classroom. So 4 or 5 years ago, it was all Play-Doh all the time. Now that we have the ability to add in cooler stuff, and I can make corny jokes, and you can put in your code and stuff like that.
Yeah, puns for days. It's fun.
Yeah, I can hold on. I can use my presidential finger puppets.
Yes.
Gerald Ford, what's up, Mr. Miller? We can, adding in stuff like that. I think it's a lot more interesting than just going through Play-Doh tutorials. That's kind of, I want to make it engaging and relevant for students.
And honestly, Play-Doh's better now.
Yeah, and since then they have released better content in like the last school year for social studies, where it's been a big update. So I'm more inclined to add in more of their stuff now, as opposed to 3 years ago, where it was for social studies too outdated to use, I would say. But yeah, there are newer versions which are looking a lot better, that include more video and are more student friendly. So yeah.
And I'm in a position where I cannot get as much information as last year, and I still like it better. Like, and that's I would love to be able to pull students. Last year I used to be able to see exactly how many minutes a student was working on a lesson. I can't do that anymore. And that's discouraging, because I can't look at a student and I can't decide, are you struggling, or did you open this lesson and go, oh, I really want to finish some social studies, and then go work for 3 days in Mr. Daly's class and ignore my stuff, right? I can't tell the difference anymore. And I used to be able to do that. And that was really nice, and I missed that. Even with that being the case, Play-Doh is still better. Like, that's the crazy part of it, is it is still, I think, an improvement over what it was. But, everyone's, kind of on your own about that. Everyone's going to have kind of different views. What else are you seeing, Ms. McLaughlin? Because you're going to see a whole bunch of classes that we don't see, right?
Oh my!
Are there some good things that other people are doing that you want to bring up?
Yes. Oh my goodness, yeah. Some of the really cool things I've noticed is that I have seen teachers make little movies, and I'm talking like 2 minutes. When I say little, I actually mean in terms of time. It's somewhere between 1 minute and 2 minute introductions to the entire week of content. So when you're in your Brightspace classes and you click on the block, then click on the week link, because you'll be able to see if your teacher has provided any type of resource just for that week in the week description. So I'm seeing a lot more engaging kind of things at the week level. It's not just a block description. Now we're getting week descriptions so that you know exactly what you're doing that entire week. And a lot of teachers are now using VoiceThread, which is another really cool way for them to insert video and audio resources that students can respond to within any class. So it's almost like you're leaving voicemails, I guess, in a way, for your teacher within VoiceThread. So they can ask you questions. You can actually make a recording, and that's your answer. And last year when I was working with kindergarten, that was one thing we worked on a lot. The students would turn their cameras on, and we would have these cute little back and forth videos where maybe students would introduce their pets, and I would introduce my pet. And right now my pet is sleeping in the basement, so I can't show you my lab, but my black lab would come bouncing around, and I could put the camera on her, and the kids and I could talk about, what does your pet do that maybe my pet doesn't do? Because, my pet will snore when she sleeps, and the kids thought that was hilarious. So I would have these little videos of my lab snoring in my office, and they thought it was hilarious. They'd never seen a dog snore. So VoiceThread is cool. I really like VoiceThread, and I'm seeing it in a lot more classes at high school, middle school, and elementary. It's not just for young students, it's for any student.
Fair enough. If
Yeah.
you get a chance, there's a video online of hummingbirds snoring, and that may be the cutest thing that's ever happened in the history of
Oh,
things.
I have to find that. Yes.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. So we've talked a little bit about some of the changes we've made. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to go too deep um, into a whole bunch of the things that initiated these changes. There've been like state law that's been clarified. There's been new things that have been passed. There have been some clarifications for differences between brick and mortar and virtual schools, and so we're always, in certain regards, your school's always kind of playing towards a moving set of goalposts, which is, in some regards, that's good, right? You always want the next year of schooling to be better than the previous one. You do. You want to hold your schools accountable. You want your teachers to be better prepared. You want your courses to teach your students more. But at the same time, when you are trying to build towards a certain standard and that standard changes, that can be frustrating. So, some of those things have sort of prompted, I guess, some of our changes as well. But I think part of that is that we've kind of split off on our own, right? We've built our own board. We've
Right. Trek, we do have our own Board of Education, and they do meet every single month. And I don't know how much of that would necessarily filter down to what students see, but it's a change for our district because our board is much more focused on supporting virtual
right.
students and virtual teachers. So it's a little bit different. With some of the other charter school laws, your board could be made up of different groups that came from different areas.
Right.
So we now have our own board that is specifically there to support us, Trucka Digital Academy.
And
Yeah.
I think that's a positive change. I think the idea of
Yes.
we are much, we're more focused. And not only, I don't think the teachers are any more focused. I think we've always had the same ideas. But I think having a board that is lasered into exactly what we're doing and nothing else, I think is a nice change. You had mentioned charter schools. I had a student say something very nice to me about comparing me to one of their public school teachers, and I suddenly realized people don't think we're a public school, and
Right.
I think that's because of the word charter, right? I think that's
Probably,
the one
yeah.
that. Would you feel comfortable explaining the difference between a public and a private school?
Right. So a public school in the state of Ohio is one that receives public money, which is money from the state in order to operate. Private schools typically do not receive public funding, or they receive very little public funding.
Right.
A private school will typically charge tuition for students to attend. A public school does not. So the other difference about public schools is we do adhere to the Ohio learning standards. Our students are required to take whatever assessment is required by the state of Ohio.
Right.
Some private schools do not administer the state assessments. They might choose to do it at the high school level to help their students be more prepared for college, but they won't do it at the elementary. It really depends on the private school and what their goals are. But as a public school district, which is what Trucka is, we do adhere to all state expectations for the learning standards and for assessments.
So we are public.
We are public.
We are a charter school.
We are.
And we are a virtual school.
And we are.
And that's three things that are, for a lot of students, the public will be the same, but two things that
Right.
very well might be different from the last school that they've attended, right? So I don't know. For a lot of students, I don't think that's really an important thing to know the nitty gritty on. I don't know
Right.
that you all care.
The
I'm sorry for
parents-
bringing it up. The parents may.
No, it's okay. I get questions from parents. As the curriculum coordinator, I do field questions from parents. I have phone calls with parents where they want to know what standards do we teach. And we are a public school, therefore we will follow all the Ohio learning standards. And, Ohio did adopt the Common Core state standards. And what that allowed, states that did that were allowed to use a certain percentage of their own standards.
Right.
So by choosing TRECA, you are choosing a public district, and those are the learning standards and the learning benchmarks that we do address.
Thank you.
And another small point of contention that, again, is just a little minute thing that might be an area of confusion is sometimes students or parents will refer to attending TRECA as homeschooling, and that might be you are at home going to school,
Right.
but you're not homeschooled by the definition that is provided by the
Right.
state. You have teachers who are licensed by the state, real people behind the computer screen. So public school, virtual school, charter school.
We are virtual, not homeschool.
But it's not. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We are virtual, not brick and mortar, not home. Yeah. That
Right.
sometimes I'm just like, but no, I'm a real person, guys. Why are you ignoring
Right.
me?
Are you though? Like,
Yeah.
I'm ish. It's fine.
We're not having an existential crisis right now. He's real. It's okay.
I'm always having an existential crisis. So we've changed our we've changed our logo. Our colors are pretty similar. So that was the old one with the graduation cap with the USB on it.
I know.
Yeah. It's actually good because so you're on the left of him and he's on the right, so you can see the old one into the new one. That's cute. You got them both.
So we planned it. Yeah, no problem.
I like the new one a lot better. I don't think we should stick words around it, but that's my personal take. But I like the idea of the pencil being the compass, and I think it's cute. I think finding your path. I like that.
Yeah.
So, how do you have that much swag available to you at the drop of a hat?
Hey, whenever there's free things available, I'm there. So don't label things as free and leave me around them because they will not.
It's like if you look at my desk, and I know you two can't see this, but I've got like a Lego painter and a Minecraft horse. Like, I'm bad at this. I'm bad at having.
Can we see your stapler? Do you have your stapler there?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay.
Check this out.
Yeah.
Now, clearly that's not free. Clearly that costs a fortune for that exquisite piece of.
That's right. My shark stapler.
So
my daughter gave me that for Christmas.
If you ever wonder what your teachers talk about when you're not there, it's things like shark staplers. We are incredibly boring people. I'm sorry.
Hey.
They're not. I am. I'm sorry.
I also have my little dolls. They help keep me.
Was that someone?
My little dolls.
Was that Jon Snow?
What are these little pop dolls? Look, I've got Jon Snow and Dean Winchester.
Well, as long as it's Dean.
Right. Yes.
I got the presidential finger puppets, Millard Fillmore and Gerald Ford. What's up?
And I got Merida from Brave.
I've got
because she has the same curly hair that I have. I really liked her.
I got glasses and an iPad. I don't know, kids.
Step your game up, Mr. Miller. Come on.
I am so boring, apparently. So, I don't even remember where I was going. Something about finding your path, and then we just.
Yeah. Well,
we
lost our path. Yeah.
Yeah. Our paths are long and winding.
But
it is.
I feel like that's actually a pretty good slogan for us when we're not going into our swag.
Right.
A lot of people when they come to TRECA, some people didn't have a good experience in their brick and mortar. Some people have some people are athletes or they're traveling with parents or for athletics or some reason. There are a lot of different reasons that people come here. Some people are needed to be around the house to help out family, and everyone's got a story, right? Like there's no one who shows up here and is like the sidekick in a story. Everyone's got their own main story. Like they could all be leads in their play. So I feel like Find Your Path is a really nice explanation of what we're trying to do. And your path may look very different than the person next to you. If you are if you are taking care of a young child, like it may take you a little extra time to get through. You may be working in evenings instead of the mornings. You may be, Saturday may be way better for you than Thursday if someone can come in and help you out with a kid. Like there are lots of reasons that having the ability to kind of set your own path is beneficial. There are certain things that we're kind of boxed into now. If I believe, are we taking attendance every single weekday right now as opposed to previously? Previously it was done by logging, at the week time frame instead of the daily.
Right. Yeah. It is required a day by day, Monday through Friday is the school week.
And so I am a little curious, and I don't know if you can answer this, so I'm sorry because I'm putting you on the spot for something you may or may not know. Let's say a student logs in Sunday instead of Monday. They're going to be marked absent, or if they got to their 5 hours at the end of the week, they're going to be okay.
So yeah, if your school week starts on a Monday and you do not log in on Monday, you are absent on Monday. You can still end up making up the hours, but attendance is very strict in terms of the fact that a school week is Monday through Friday.
Right.
So if you find you can only log in for an hour on Monday, it's better than not logging in at all. So I don't recommend trying to only, say, oh, well, I'm just going to do an hour Monday and, 6 hours on Saturday. You really need to try to do the most you can, but I understand that sometimes life gets in the way.
Yeah.
But I will say that you definitely should be logging into Brightspace the 5 regular business work days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
And if you are gone, please feel free to log in a little extra time on, if you are sick Monday.
Definitely.
One beautiful thing about Trekka versus other places is if you miss Monday in your regular school, then you just you miss the teaching sessions. Maybe you get to do the homework. But you miss some of that learning experience. You don't have to do that here. If you have to be gone Monday, if you are really sick, or something else is going on, you can log in on Saturday and make up those hours. You're still going to be kind of absent on Monday, but it's not all. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say we do have excused absences as well. So if you are truly too ill to get up and sit and work at your computer, you had a doctor appointment and it ended up lasting all day. Sometimes a specialist, they're not just 20 minutes away, it's an hour and a half away.
Right.
And, we do have excused absences. So you definitely need to make sure you're in contact with our attendance officer and submitting those doctor notes when you do have them, to make sure that you are getting excused absences when you're eligible for them.
Oh,
you're still going to get the absence notices. You're still going, to get those types of notices, but you can get excused absences.
Yeah, you'll still be counted as absent, but you'll be counted as an excused absent, and that is a little different for repercussions and stuff for this. It's just excused is better than unexcused. No absence is better than absence. Is kind of the
exactly yes.
You can now, I believe you can actually submit doctor's notes and excuses online as a parent through the parent portal.
I believe so. I don't know enough to speak about that, but I know they had talked about that being there.
Check out the news post in Brightspace.
Exactly.
From Wednesday, that's a very new process, I believe, and
yes,
the new Evolve portal is really has some great stuff in it that they're going to continue to develop. So click on a little notification and then the school-wide news announcements, and there's a ton of good stuff there parents can start using as resources to track things like attendance and other things like that on their end, so we can both collaborate on that.
Yeah, and the parent portal is new. The stuff that's going up is new. Well, not the parent portal in general. There's been a parent portal around. There's a lot more functionality now than there was previously. If you see something that you go, oh, this would be a really great extension of that, this would be much better than what you currently have, that's another thing you can tell us about. We are always happy to try to make things better. That doesn't mean we can do it all the time. It doesn't mean, or we can do it quickly, As students, I got that email today about bugging my code, so you can't push things out too fast. But, if
Yeah.
you go, hey, this is functionality I really want to have as a parent or as a student, tell us, let us know.
Mhm.
Because
Yep.
even if we can't do it right now, it's something we can put on the back burner and keep in our minds as we move forward.
Yes. Yes, we love parent feedback. We really do. Whenever we have our events at the Marion office, like we have a career day in the spring, there's
Hmm.
always a meeting with every single parent there, and we ask for parent feedback. So we absolutely love to know what our parents think. We really do. You just need to kind of make sure you share that with us, and we will do what we can to address it if it's something that we can do.
And I would rather have a mad parent than no parent. Because if
Yeah.
if you're upset, then that means that you're paying attention to what's going on, and there's something you want to be better. You know,
Yeah.
I think most of the time, I have had very few instances of where, especially Trekka, where we haven't worked through it and gotten good information and had a good dialogue. So, even if you're upset, come talk to me. If it's about math, if you are happy, come talk to me. If you have ideas, come talk to me.
Yep.
Mr. Daly, do you have anything for that? Are you good?
Yeah, no, just certainly. There's a lot of things that we rely on our parents for, or learning
Hmm.
partners. We're not sitting there with your student. And a lot of times, the things that we hear are, my student needs one-on-one help. They need that one-on-one attention, and we can definitely offer that. And I think in a few minutes we'll probably talk more about the Jigsaw online classroom and what we can do there with students. But that parent feedback is really essential because we might really benefit from hearing what happened when they were at that previous online school or that previous brick and mortar school or their struggles. Those are things that students won't
Hmm.
always share with us,
Right.
or we can't see just
Hmm.
from looking at their names or their assessment results.
Yeah.
So anytime that you can contribute that to us or work with the advisor is someone who, as a parent
Yes.
or learning partner, you probably are hearing from on a weekly or biweekly basis. They can pass along messages to us too. There's like probably 5 teachers for your student at the high school level,
Yeah.
fewer at the elementary level. But there's generally that one advisor at the middle school and high school level who can kind of act
Hmm.
as a go between and send us to each other and figure out times where we can meet or work over email or text or whatever it is, because your input is so valuable and really helps us with reaching your student, helping them make progress and overcoming any obstacles they might have or have experienced in the past. So that's very valuable. So
I want to jump into Jigsaw just because it's been mentioned. If you've been in my classroom, you probably see here's the link to our Jigsaw. Here's the link to our Jigsaw. And here's the link to our Jigsaw. Every email at the bottom says, "Here's the link to our Jigsaw." At some point, I know that some students are like, "I would just rather talk in an email or talk in an iMessage," and while we will do that as well. Mr. Daly, why is Jigsaw? I'm going to just set you up for this, and why is it so much better than talking in an email?
yeah, I think you're definitely right on that. So I won't disagree with you there. But yeah, it just really allows us to break down problems or barriers that students might have a lot easier than. So, for example, if a kid asks you how to do a math problem, typing that back in an email can be a 5 or 6 paragraph response that can be really complicated and still might not fully convey what you need to tell the student, or it won't allow you to see if the student can replicate doing that problem. Same thing for social studies if it comes to a topic or content which can be long
Hmm.
and winding, or a skill like research. Those are things that are so hard just to convey in an email. So getting together in Jigsaw lets us explain it one to one. We're essentially right there with your student in the online setting. And also another benefit is we can kind of test the student there to see if they are fully understanding. So before they leave the Jigsaw session, we can say, yeah, you definitely do know how to add fractions now. You just did it for me on the whiteboard. Or you really can explain, what the difference between the 18th and the 21st Amendment was. Those are things where we can just talk back and forth and make that better connection. I've also seen that students who attend Jigsaw are more likely to continue to reach out through the entirety of the
Hmm.
course.
Yeah.
Because they're able to make a closer connection to their teacher, kind of get that, oh, Mr. Miller is a real person and not a robot, or not a
Yeah.
just an artificial intelligence person. He's real and cares about me. So there's so many benefits to Jigsaw. So I always encourage students to get into Jigsaw for um, just walking through those things, or if you ever just want to get in Jigsaw and look at your class as a whole, and if you don't even have a specific question about a lesson or a quiz. It's just how do I get started or what is going on. We can definitely do that too. Any of your teachers, your advisor would love to jump in a Jigsaw with you and kind of make an action plan for the year or for the class or for the week. It's there to provide that one-on-one support that we can't always provide or doesn't, replicate as well over email or iMessage or sometimes even the phone. So it's a really great resource to take advantage of.
And just one note to add for my students, if you don't want to talk, if the reason you don't want to go into Jigsaw is because the mic scares you or bothers you, we can text and still write things on the board, and it's still way better. Being able to get instant feedback is always better. Because if you're making an easy mistake and you practice it, it goes from being an easy mistake to one that's really hard to fix. So always know you can, we can go in and until you're comfortable, you don't have to talk. And then when you get comfortable, or if you're just like, I don't want to have to type all this stuff out anymore. That's the first time a student hits the push to talk button, it's normally because I don't want to type this. And then afterwards they're like, oh, that wasn't actually scary. But, so we encourage you to do it. It's way better. I hold open sessions where you can just come in and ask questions. I know some students don't like to do math unless they know other people are there suffering with them. So for those people, I have a lot of students last year who would come into the open session and they didn't actually need any help. They just wanted to know that other people were working at the same time. They'd say hi to each other. They'd have some classmates where you kind of don't typically know your classmates in some of the other online environments. So that gives an option. Do you have anything else to add to that, Ms. McLaughlin?
Just that when I actually taught high school English here at Trecca before I became the school improvement coordinator, and I always had open Jigsaw hours like that. And I think once students got over the hump of the fear of me forcing them to talk using a microphone, when they finally realized I wasn't going to force it, I would help them without them using the microphone, they would come much more regularly. And those were the students who ended up finishing the class and figured out that English wasn't quite so scary. It really wasn't. I'm a big proponent of open hours like that. I love them.
On average, and I gotta pull up the data, but I can tell you for sure, students who come to Jigsaw meetings finish the class faster. That is it is open and shut. That is the best way. If you are having trouble in a class or you want to get the class done, come see us, work with us. That is the best way to speed up what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
And really quick, I'm going to do a quick shout out for this new app for Android and Apple.
Yes.
I haven't used it yet. I hear there's some good stuff with it. It is being labeled as 17 plus because anything that pulls in web pages on the Apple Store does. It is not actually 17 plus.
Looky there.
It's coming up.
On an iPad.
I don't think it's designed for iPads. So I would say stick it on your iPhone or your Android device is the first place to go. It works fine on iPad, but I think
it's just bigger.
It's not specialized for iPad.
What do we have in it? What does it do for you? Do you want to give us
it's something that they're still building, so I'm not sure of the functionality of everything. It's just lots of things like resources. It takes you to our social media presence. You can update your address if you move.
Yeah. So you don't have to call anybody.
Yeah. So lots of cool stuff. The regional offices, addresses, and phone numbers. I'm sure you can't see this that closely. You can just see Navi. But so I would check that out, and I know they're going to continue to develop and they have a few more things in the pipeline for it. It can also send you push notifications. So I'm guessing when there's a event or some major announcement, that can pop up on your phone, so you got it right there in your pocket with you immediately. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's new. I haven't had a chance to play with it, so I'm super glad you had, because I had no idea if anyone would be able to speak to it. Yeah. So good for you. So, honestly, I've hit a lot of the topics I wanted to hit. Is there anything else that either of you would like to discuss about the beginning of the year before we let these poor souls go back to their classes?
Let me hit you with just three little tiny things.
Sure.
First, if you are a student in the Southeast region, Southwest region, or Columbus region, looks like you have your back to school bashes coming up. Southeast in Zanesville is September 12th. Southwest is September 13th. That's the Springfield office. And then Columbus looks like has theirs on the 14th, if I'm reading this correctly. So
Yes.
I was at the Northeast one last week. A lot of fun, a lot of ice cream, a lot of free stuff. So I had a fun time. So you guys should definitely check that out if you're down there. And another thing is for parents or for students, like I noted, the app does direct you to our social media presence, but I know there's some you can probably find it easily enough on Facebook or Twitter. They're trying to continue to grow their presence there. A lot of the stuff that they post for us as teachers or to your students ends up on that social media presence. Like Facebook, they always post the field trips and announcements. So give that a like or a listen if you're someone who uses those platforms. It's a pretty cool way to stay informed. And then lastly, this week and next week, we are celebrating Constitution Day here at Trekka Digital Academy. Constitution Day, September 17th. And so that's on a weekend this week or this year. So still leading up to that day, we're going to do some activities, and there's a poster contest where you can win a Trekka swag bag. There's different grade levels. So check that out in your Brightspace newsfeed or on social media about how to enter there, or for sure give me an email if you have any questions or need any help with that. But that's a great way to learn about our Constitution, maybe win a prize. And for all of the activities, there's a little Brightspace badge you can earn too, which I think are pretty cool. So definitely check that out.
Yep.
You were a lot more prepared for that than I thought you would be. I did not realize you had been good for you. No,
he's
you are
ready.
on it. Anything else to add?
Just pay attention to mail that comes out because, of course, we do have state testing coming up, and you want to make sure that you are responding to that. If you get a letter and it's a location that it's just not going to work for you for whatever reason, you just make sure you're calling somebody and talk to somebody and reach out to somebody and get some clarification on things. Sometimes we can't change a location because of where it is in the state. So, I'm not going to guarantee that something's going to get changed, but if you don't reach out and ask, you'll never know.
And if you don't know who to ask, if you call one of your teachers, if you call your advisor or your counselor, we'll try to get you in touch with who you're supposed to be in touch with. Most of us are, I'd say all of us, but I guess there are probably people I haven't met who work here from other parts of the state. So the people I know, all seem to be, we're all good people. We all really do want you to succeed.
Everyone listening, everyone is very nice and a good person.
No, I'm not. No,
everybody's nice. I swear.
No, the employees. I don't know, but
Yeah, you're not going to email anyone and they're going, "No, I'm not telling you where to take your test." Ha ha ha. Yeah, I know you're.
You know what I mean? Come on.
Yeah, I know.
You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. We want you to succeed. We are not going to give you a hard time because you have a question. We are going to try to get your question answered, right?
Definitely.
There is no such thing as it. Well, I guess the saying goes, "There's no such thing as a stupid question." I mean, there have been some interesting questions I've gotten over the course of the year, but I'll stand by that. If you have a question, I will always make it my number one priority to get that answered for you, even if that answer is not one you're going to like. Sometimes the answer is I can't fix that for you, but then at least So we'll do our best. I want to thank you two very much for being here. I know it's a Friday, and I know you've got other stuff going on, so I appreciate nailing some other things out so that you can join us.
It's fun.
So thank you both, and to the parents and the students who are joining us today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and an awesome rest of your day. Take care, everybody.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.